this topic, and I'll kind of let you know a little bit about myself and why I was concerned about this particular topic. And again, thank you for having me. It's an honor and privilege. Sorry we were a little bit late, but a group of 4 of us came and we had a couple stops to pull off, pick some people up. My full-time profession is I co-own a taxi cab company. Between my partner and myself, we have 83 units now, taxis, sedans, limos. We deal in cash. You know, cash to me is not a crime, but it has become a crime. So I'm very concerned about it because a good volume of our business is in cash. And it's not unusual, especially on a big weekend, to have large amounts of cash on hand. And then, of course, we put that cash into the bank. And through the Patriot Act, it's under it's under the U.S. Patriot Act, Title III, Subtitle B. This is where cash becomes a crime. And this is, there's other areas of the Patriot Act that you have to be very aware of when it comes to seizing property and things of that nature. I'm going to specifically talk about cash and how I became aware of it, and then I actually saw it happen to a farmer. Okay, generally this Patriot Act, which to me just tramples all over our freedoms, was presented as something to go after terrorists, gun runners, these types of folks, and they've gone after law-abiding folks, farmers. So it was brought to my attention that to deposit into the bank, and you excuse my breast cancer awareness month. I wonder why pink tie. Is that when you deposit more than $10,000, there's all these forms. So I changed my procedures. We just said, okay, we'll just go to daily deposits. So I've got a big safe in my office, and safety deposits boxes that are needed because they've made cash a crime. I mean, this is just absolutely insane. Unfortunately, and I'll actually cite the part here. It says Section 365 amends the BSA. And again, that's a Bank Secrecy Act. It makes a requirement of anyone who does business to file a report for any coin or foreign currency receipts that are over $10,000. And this is the key that I'm going to get to this case. It also makes it illegal to structure transactions in a manner that evades the BSA's reporting requirements. And that's what they got this gentleman under. Okay? South Mountain Creamery, if you have the opportunity, hopefully you can go and hear his story personally, because obviously someone that has lived it, that has had the federal government breathing down their neck, when they're nothing more than a hard-working, law-abiding farmer, can only tell the story, in my opinion, the most passionate way that it can be told, because obviously there is no amount of money that you can put on the stress, the strife, the personal angst of being accused, basically of being a terrorist, that it puts on a business owner, on a family, on a marriage, etc. So what South Mountain Creamery does, they're in Milltown, Maryland. Okay, some people want fresh produce. You can have milk delivered. It's the old style. Put a box, get the milk, put the milk back in the can. He'll come and get it, and he's been very successful. But what he did, according to the complaint, that the couple, the family, deposited more than $295,000 into PNC bank account in about 3 dozen separate transactions, just under $10,000. This was done between May 6th, 2011, and February 27th, 2012. During that time, the couple's cash receipts from the farmers market, including 2 in Baltimore, totaled more than $320,000. So again, we're talking about farmer markets, cash. They made cash a crime. Yes.
You had said that it was coin and international What
No,
about,
that's under the Provisions Act. He was dealing with just cash.
then why is he being prosecuted? Because the Federal Reserve notes are neither.
I agree with you. Can we understand many of the functions that the federal government does and what they pursue? I mean, the world would be a perfect place if we were in charge. But you know, through the currency, because $10,000.
Yeah, but it's not a coin or foreign currency.
I agree. I mean, I think that if he was here, we would have quit him, and he would get his money back. So that, you know, unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with. So what happened was, you know, my guess is that somebody, probably in the banking industry, reported him as suspicious activity. Now, of course, I think Randy will talk about that. I don't know if he'll ever know. Somehow, he got on the radar screen, okay? Because they make those that are in the banking industry for turning someone in immune from getting in any trouble in any way, shape, or form, okay? Now, someone could have saw this, and they jumped to a conclusion without asking questions. You know, I don't know if you know, I was hoping that Randy would be able to come with me tonight, but he wasn't able. So again, if you have an opportunity to hear his story, but unfortunately, if people get mad when I say this, sometimes, and a lot of times, the government is the creator of the biggest thief there is. It's all the rules and the regulations. So, you know, he's structuring it because of the paperwork. Again, he was consistent with the amount of money that he deposited, okay? He's nothing to hide. Told the bank what he's doing, deposit the money. There's no secret there in any way, shape, or form. Next thing he knows, the federal government is on his doorstep, on his property, letting him know he's under investigation. And they've seized $62,000 of the money in the account, okay? This is a farmer that's trying to buy seed, needs working capital, and has to operate his business. So they seized $62,936. Okay, now, again, on top of all the stress, you know, you got to go out. Of course, you hire a lawyer. There's a cost to that. And eventually, you know, the deal was, in my opinion, that the federal government realized this guy isn't doing anything wrong. Well, we're going to go ahead and keep $29,000 of his money because we can. And that's what they did. They should have just turned all of his money back and say, we realize you're not a terrorist, you're not a gun runner, and we've made a mistake here, and issue him a public apology and return all his money. But what they did was they returned $33,436. I'm hoping he's gotten that money. I'm assuming he's gotten that money back. The rest of the money they seized and kept, which was the $29,500. Yes.
From what I understand, because he spoke with the Baltimore City paper, they came in under civil asset forfeiture and took more.
On top of, okay, see, I haven't seen the continuing case. So they've taken additional money. The last report I had that they were entering into a settlement, and that basically it's kind of like you deal with insurance companies. Okay, here's your settlement. We'll make all this go away, or you can do as George said, you know, take us to the mat and fight for it, which I do hope Randy would be agreeable to do, and we should start a campaign to help him raise money to do so, because this has just gotten completely out of control. It's happened in other places in the country. There's some articles I know that you have back here. I think there's a farmer on the Eastern Shore that it happened to, and pretty much is, you know, it's the 800-pound gorilla of, you know, this guy's got business. He doesn't have the ability to go and hire all the legal guns that are needed to fight the government. It's easier just to settle, get back what we can and be done with it, because, you know, what farmer should be sitting there worrying about having to be prosecuted in due time over something like this? So this is just a prime example of the government overreaching its authority, bulldozing over a family, a farming harming family and basically saying, okay, we're gonna settle this, we're gonna keep X amount of money, we'll give X amount back, and we're all going on our merry way. The government should admit what they did was wrong. They should issue a public apology. They should not only reimburse his money, they should reimburse any fees out of his pocket that he had to spend on legal representation. From what I understand, that now he's under an IRS review. Now, they say these reviews are routine. Well, I don't believe that, because obviously the government or any government official does not like to have egg on their face. And in my opinion, they have egg on their face, and they're trying to save themselves from this embarrassment. So what they're going to do is investigate him and his family and his business to try to find any irregularities that they can find. So, you know, I would encourage you to contact, obviously, your congressional leaders, U.S. Senate. George is talking about doing a bottom-up campaign with the sheriffs and local officials. I do a radio program. I've been trying to get the Sours on to tell their story. The problem here is people get scared to tell their story because who's the 800-pound gorilla? The government can show up again with more federal agents or Treasury agents or IRS agents. When does it end? And they can literally bury you into suppression, that you just want it all to go away and you want to be a good little minion and do what you're told. And unfortunately, you know, more of us are going to have to speak up, because I believe this country is built on a deck of cards, morally and financially, and it's all going to come crashing down. I mean, I've got involved in this because at the end of the day, I have to be able to look at my kids and say, I tried. I hope that the house of cards don't come crashing down during their lifetime, but it's either going to be my children or their grandchildren, and I'm going to have to be able to look at them and say, we tried. We saw it coming. I think everyone here sees it coming. Not only the financial crisis that we're in, the moral crisis that we're in, and that we're having our freedoms and our liberties trampled on, and they continue to expand trampling on them. And unfortunately, people are going up and down the roads like good little minions and just doing what they're told because the government says it's right, and that's the way it is, and go about your business. Yes?
Oh, I'm sorry. If you,
Well, I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh, thank you.
Now, I'm a retired Fed, more than a third of a century in several agencies. And I listened to the gentleman on the Peter Schiff show, because he was interviewed. The one thing I would say is you have to remember that people in bureaucracies have a tendency to be cowards. And that is something in our favor. This is my opinion. Whenever you talk about this, you should never say that the Treasury did it, or the Department of the Treasury did it, because the Department of the Treasury didn't do it. It's people inside the Department of the Treasury. For example, when I listened to your friend on Peter Schiff, I didn't hear the name of the person or the people in Treasury. Now, if you or I were to commit an infraction, they would not hesitate to put your and my first and last name, address, occupation, age in the newspaper. So this is my opinion. Whenever you are in the public arena, like you are now,
Sure.
and you are publicizing this,
Sure.
you need to put out the name of that.
How many people are in the Department of Treasury, you think?
But he received a letter or summons from someone.
I understand that, but how many people do you think are in the department?
Thousands.
Where's our hero?
Pardon?
There's no one in that department that knew what was going on, that knew that it was wrong, that would speak up and say, let's do the right thing.
You need to publicize the name of the person in the Treasury that dealt with you.
And everybody he or she reports to.
That would be impossible.
Well,
You mean
but-
it dealt with Randy Sauer?
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand what he's saying, but, you know, eventually,
Well, that's a good point.
believe me, if you don't think that with the notoriety that this case has got,
But
That-
my point is
we
that
don't know who did it.
you're,
We don't know who did it, and if you identify
bottom. You can find out who.
Sure, it's in court documents who,
You do not want to allow people in bureaucracies the cover of anonymity. In other words, if they are going to publish your name and my name, we need to publish their name. And even if you get a form letter that does not include the name of an agent or whoever, you need to find out who is the head of that department in that office. For example, there should be a regional office.
well, I guarantee you we can get the name of the treasury office, because it's going to be in the court case, the documentation that's been filed.
But I'm saying,
That's the
every pamphlet or piece of paper you put out, my advice is to list the people on the other side, first and last name. And if a government employee is not ashamed of what they are doing, then they should have no problem with their name being put out in the public sphere. I mean, that's just my opinion.
That's a good point.
I mean, we get that, but, I mean, there's people that report to that.
I saw this done in this case, somebody in, I think it was Georgia, a little town of Georgia, that they heckled to death. And it was this county clerk that had done it, and they published her name. And also, if you can't find the clerk that's done it, you just have a judge that made the decision that you can name.
Well, I mean, the one name that they do publicize, I mean, we can get those names too, but I mean, it's the U.S. Attorney's Office that prosecutes and went ahead and filed the complaint. So, I mean, ultimately, they take that information to the U.S. Attorney's Office. The U.S. Attorney's Office is the one that makes the determination to file the complaint. They're the ones who go in and prosecute.
His name should be on
It
every
is.
pamphlet. Good.
His name's Rosenstein.
There you go.
So that's his name. And
So you
try to get his first name
Wait
here.
till Rosenstein to tell them to stop doing this crap.
I don't know if they have a first name on him. I thought they had a first name on him somewhere. But I mean, that's Rod Rosenstein is the guy who accused the couple of violating the federal currency reporting requirement. The Treasury agents are the ones that do the investigation and turn it over to the U.S. Attorney. The U.S. Attorney is actually the one who files the complaint. Yes.
And I just wanted to correct what I said earlier. The $29,500 is the final amount
Okay.
of the settlement, but.
And I didn't know, because let me tell you, it could be fast and loose. It can change today or tomorrow.
Yeah, or at least it was as of this writing. But it sounded like until he talked to the city paper, they wouldn't have had to pay anything in the settlement. That's sort of the way the article was written.
Okay.
That makes sense. You know,
Since he
retaliation.
spoke up,
Bad
you have
boy.
retaliation, yeah.
Don't tell
Well,
us, like he
he
said,
knew he
name
wasn't doing anything
names.
wrong. He had nothing to hide. He didn't care. He started
Yeah.
speaking, saying, what's happening here is wrong. And you're right. He spoke up and said, what's happening here is wrong. You know, this is what I did. I've got nothing to hide. But still, they're going to make him go through this IRS review, which they say is routine.
Is there,
So Rod Rosenstein or whoever else involved won't say, you know what, there's no reason to put him through this routine IRS investigation because he didn't do anything wrong.
It's more intimidation.
Sure it is.
Is there any, there are federal whistleblower laws, right? Is there any office that is supposed to champion the whistleblower laws
IG.
that you could take this to for that reason? Because it looks like there's a direct relationship between the reporting of it publicly and then suddenly it wasn't dropped after all.
That's something that Mr. Sellers might want to-
Every big office should have what's called an IG, Inspector General. And if you think that you've been mistreated, I would file with them.
But you gotta remember, the IG works for the government agency, so you're asking the police and police themselves.
That's correct.
The odds of that coming,
Ron Rosenstein is the assistant U.S. attorney that works for who? Holden. So what's that tell you? I mean, he's one that could step in and took appropriate action. So, I mean, but what you have here is that, a farming family that basically said, here's what I did, I have nothing to hide. And the government's inability, Rod Rosenstein is the one who filed a complaint, didn't have the common sense to withdraw the complaint, refund their money, and issue a letter of apology. So, I mean, that's the guy who filed the complaint, that's the guy who followed through with the complaint, that's the guy who crafted the settlement and said, we're keeping $29,500, restoring, giving you back the remainder of the money. I do not know if he's received that money yet, but that's what the settlement agreement was. Because obviously, they'll take it like that, but they're not always quick to give it back like that.
And spend it on their boats and stuff.
Yes.
Can I ask a question? If I'm understanding you correctly, he signed the settlement agreement?
Well, yeah, he entered into the
Because-
settlement
did
because
he
he
do
wanted
that?
it to be over.
No, I understand
Yeah.
that part. Well, was it just that he wanted it to be over, or was it that he thought it'd be too burdensome to fight any further? Because I would think.
Well, that's what I mean, I'm
A
sorry.
place like the Institute for Justice would love to take a case like this.
Well,
Unless
I think that if you have an opportunity to go and hear him speak, you're talking about simple people, and I'm saying that in a positive term, a simple business person that just basically had their lives turned upside down, and we're looking for more to get back to normalcy and get back to business and put it behind him and realize what it would take. The other option is, well, if you don't settle, then we're going to follow through with the prosecution. And, that's the hammer that they use.
Yeah, but wouldn't it, the Institute of Justice, couldn't they still, called coercion? He was coerced into
They
something.
could try that, but the thing
The
is
whole
that.
purpose
up-
was the
up
Patriot
until
Act
that
wasn't
point, it's
designed
an
for that.
open and shut case.
It
It's
wasn't
slam
for
dunk.
that purpose. It's
Now
a
that he's signed
violation
it, they might be willing to go further, but it's not a slam dunk anymore.
Yeah.
You might say, well, there's other cases that are more, difficult.
Yes.
Would I be correct to say that the Sowers family's reputation was being
Oh,
dragged?
absolutely. Absolutely. Rod Rosenstein's name's in the paper, but who do you think, there's no secret about who he is, but do you think there wasn't people whispering around in Frederick saying, hey, did you hear what happened? What do you think they're doing out there, drugs? Well, what do you think they're up to? You think maybe they grow marijuana out there on that farm? What's going on? What illegal activity were they up to?
selling raw milk.
Just
Oh,
just
man.
imagine, I hate to say this, he's so generalistic, just imagine if it was a Muslim family farm.
Sure.
They
Absolutely.
would be in jail,
Yeah.
even though they did nothing wrong.
Without
You
charge.
know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, without charge. They
Yeah.
don't bother with.
Just-
Yes, I'm
just
sorry.
think about it.
That's fine. You mentioned radio, and you talked about, you said you had a radio outlet,
I do a radio show every day from 3 to 6 on WFMD.
FMD. I was gonna say, has anyone approached, like, for instance, C4 in Baltimore? I would think this is the kind of thing he would really, really grab and
Sure.
run with. Is that something
Sure.
that?
And they started speaking out, what they started doing was speaking out in outlets where they thought they would get some traction and get some more notice. Obviously in Frederick, we think this is absurd. I know that they've done some outreach and talking to some outlets in Baltimore to try to get some people to say, hey, what's happening here is wrong. The problem is the politician, well, it's over, it's done with, everything's fine. No, it's not. The guy's reputation's been tarnished. He should get a letter, he ought to have a letter of apology that's in his business, so when someone comes in, he can point to it, and if he wants, they should run a free ad in the newspaper, announce it on the radio, we apologize, we're sorry, these are good, upstanding people, they're a credit to our community, their money's been refunded, we refunded all the money that they had to put up for legal fees, accountants, etc., and issued a letter of apology.
Right.
But
Well,
that,
what I mean is, I think something like WBAL would be a good outlet for that. Is that something where I should send the guy at WBAL an email
Absolutely.
myself? Or is
absolutely.
that something where the family should be the one, I just wanted to make sure I followed.
If we, as much as we can encourage the Sowers to tell this story, we need them to tell it, we need to tell them, we need to encourage them to do something about it, tell the story over and over and over again. Again, like George said, he's gonna have to get up early the next day because he's got cows to tend to. Yes.
Have you ever seen a letter with that in your whole life? From a bureaucrat apologizing?
No.
I don't think anyone here has.
No, not on the federal level. I've seen some at lower levels, at municipal or county level, yeah, but never at a state or federal level.
Cracks in the wall.
You say
maybe the ACLU would be interested in
He's
that.
got-
And then what you've got is a pattern of harassment.
Yeah.
Say, all right, he
That's
signed,
And the guy,
he signed
you know,
already on the first thing, and yet you're still coming after him.
I mean,
That's
you
what I
know,
was
at some
thinking
point, you
about
wonder if
the
this
ACLU.
lawyer says, hey, look, you know, I don't know how much you want to keep telling this story. We've got to get through this IRS review, and we don't need to be picking any scabs here. We're just trying, I mean, that's the hammer, that's what they use. So, you know, again, if you got an opportunity to, you know, just want to, you know, make, you know, you aware of it, you know, they made cash a crime for farming. That's what they did.
I know the law has been around for a long time with this asset forfeiture, but it really isn't constitutional. It's
What's that to do with that?
seizure, you know, specifically in the Constitution, search and seizure without court.
Unfortunately, George and I are having a pretty heated discussion about this coming up the road. We see what they've done to the Constitution in terms of how they've trampled over it and what they've done to it. And that's why I said it's all, in my opinion, the house of cards. But no disrespect to anyone that works, it's just kind of house of cards waiting to crumble. And, you know, I mean, thank you all for the participation that you have done in terms of getting together and meeting. You know, I'm also an elected official in Frederick County. I serve on the Board of County Commissioners, and, you know, I've done simple things like, you know, we eliminated our pension plan. I don't think government elected officials should get a pension plan, so we eliminated our I do get compensated for the time that I do, but I don't think we should get a pension plan. I don't take the health care that's provided. I don't think elected officials should be provided. It's service. The stipend is more than enough. You know, if I send out personal correspondence that's outside my duties as president of the board, I go to the post office and I buy stamps. So, I mean, the problem is you've gotten all these elected officials that have forgotten that they're servants and have gotten into the gravitas of serving in the office and all the perks and, you know, that they've created and call it a job.
You don't have
It's
a police
service.
car driving around? You don't have a police car driving around?
No, I do own a police car, but, you know, as you heard, I own a transportation company, and the car I drive outside is a Crown Vic that I bought for $2,700 off the internet with a $300 Mako paint job that I put my own propane fuel kit on it, runs on propane, so I don't have to buy any foreign oil, and I own it, and it's got about 185,000 miles on it. It just does fine.
What gas miles does it get?
Actually, the gas mileage is exactly the same. The burn is a lot better because you don't have to build up on the engine, and you don't have to change the oil as much.
Is that an
Change the oil.
8-cylinder?
Yeah, and I change it about every 8,000 to 10,000 miles. But so you know that's a little bit about the story. Hopefully, you'll get to hear more about it. One other topic I want to leave you with, because I do want to take some other questions if you have them. I don't know if any of you all and how much of this issue is important to you, but I have a major problem with illegal aliens, illegal immigration. Okay, this is something that, again, it's a house of cards. It's burying local communities because we're mandated by the Supreme Court to educate. We talk about all the social services that are provided. When you look at the state of Maryland, you know, they estimate anywhere from $1.5 to $2 billion. You know, something has to be done at a local level, in my opinion, because at the federal level, nothing's being done. And, you know, I've just advocated, why wouldn't we put all resources for legal citizens first? Why are we providing any services to those that are here illegally? Now, I'm not talking about immigrants. Don't let people mix the topics. I'm pro-immigrant. I'm talking about those that are legal. he did a documentary about the human and financial cost of illegal immigration, illegal aliens, and I brought 25 copies to anybody that would like a copy of this. You can take it, check it out. It's actually a very well done, well produced documentary, and hopefully it opens up a lot more eyes. I wish they were talking more about this on the federal level, because you've got two major problems: the border and then what those that are here. And you know, I've always used the term from Secretary of State Chris Kobach from Kansas in self-deportation, and that is if you don't provide services, they won't come. It's not only about, you hear jobs, jobs, jobs. Well, they come for all the free services that their country doesn't provide, that we bend over backwards and provide. And we're looking to expand with the DREAM Act being on the ballot, which is just absurd. So, you know, just investigate that issue, see what the impacts are at the local level, and that, because it's really at the local level that it's an unfunded mandate that's sent down, especially on, you know, we did a couple things in Frederick. First of all, our sheriff, Chuck Jenkins, we're the only county in the state of Maryland that has the 287G ICE program. 287G ICE program means that if there's an arrestable offense and you're taken to the detention center, we find out whether or not you're here legally. Okay? It's a program that our detention folks at the detention center are trained on the federal. You hear a lot about this with Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
Yeah.
Sheriff Jenkins has never had any issues in any way, shape, or form, and I think Sheriff Joe Arpaio has been railroaded, in my opinion. But in 3.5 years, our sheriff has, through the 287G ICE program, just in little old Frederick County, Maryland, okay, over 1,000 illegal aliens that have committed a crime have gone through the 287G ICE program and then had detainers issued. So if that's occurring in Frederick County, what do you think's occurring in Montgomery County, which is, all you gotta do is Google, is the second most desirable jurisdiction in the country in terms of services that are provided if you're illegal. We did another thing in Frederick County. I know that Queen Anne's followed suit, Carroll County's having the debate. We made English the official language. We didn't say English everywhere. We said English is our official language. We actually had people come out and speak against that. Blew me away. I said, maybe next meeting I'll do it in Portuguese. It's crazy. So, we at our county, with our county government, we use E-Verify. We instituted that. And also, for many years, we've tried to advocate to our school system based on the information that they collect when someone enters our school system to tell us how many of them they reasonably document are here legally. Not to not provide them an education, to communicate to the federal government, because the average cost of an average student in Frederick County is $12,500. So if we have 1,000 folks in our system that I don't want to know their names, I don't care about the names, I didn't ask that. I said, can you document that they're here legally? Tell me the number that you can. And we have tried this for many years, because we take that number, whether it's 1,000 or 2,000, times it by 12,500, and send a freaking bill to our U.S. senators and Congress and say, we want reimbursed.
Yes, absolutely.
That's simple. That's the impact on our community. If you're going to mandate us to do it, then pay for it. Yes, sir.
How does E-Verify work? Doesn't that add a lot of cost to
That is a complete myth. My company, again, with a total of part-time, full-time, independent contractors, 140 people, E-Verify is a free website. I have never personally found it cumbersome to use. There is no cost to use it, but it is a tool that is readily available and it is free. The most I ever saw that it had taken was about 8 days for verification. And the only reason it took that long was it came back with some questions, and then when I questioned the person that I needed more documentation, they disappeared. So obviously there was some issue there, and that's why they did disappear. So that's the longest I've ever seen it used. We're using it at the county level. We haven't found it to be encumbersome in any way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Two things real quick. One, no federal program is free. No federal program is free. Somebody's paying for it.
That's correct.
And the second thing is the 1,000 people that you've identified, and system, what happened to them? Anything?
Well, detainers were issued for deportation. After that, you're right, I don't know. Because
Don't
after that,
say it's free for you, but we're paying for it.
well, I understand that. I understand that. What I'm trying to say is, I think the question is what's the cost to the business?
Okay.
The taxpayer is paying for it, you are correct, but there is no cumbersome cost to the business to sign up and use the site.
There is, but it's not direct. Okay.
I understand, but, and I also understand the question is,
Yeah, I know.
a business owner does not want to see another fee or another regulation posed on them that's going to
Understand.
impede their ability to be able to do business. What I'm saying is there is no fee that's
No direct
imposed
fee.
on it. They, us, are already paying for it, and it's there.
Another thing about E-Verify that I have issues with is that it's putting the owner, it's putting everything on the business owner where legally, where, am I correct on that? Like, say somehow they hire someone that slips through the cracks. Couldn't they be held liable now? Like, you screwed up, you hired someone illegally, you as a business owner could be held liable. You know, I'm at a loss for words because I'm not calling.
You're at fault because.
Yeah.
Well, not if you're, I mean, you know, everybody that comes in my place, I make a copy of their license, a copy of their social security card. So if they're presenting me with a faulty or altered document, I'm not gonna be held liable because I've approved them. Here's what they provided me, here's what, that I entered, and to the best of my knowledge, what they presented me was a actual government document. I mean, one of the things that we proposed in this legislative package in Frederick County was just for voter identification. You know, I just think that it's crazy that we think it's so absurd that we can't ask for someone to prove who they are when they go vote. And what we proposed is we told the one side, okay, you get hung up on a photo ID. Well, everybody in our county is provided a Board of Elections card for free. That's the free document produced and provided to taxpayers that the taxpayers paid for, okay? Also, with a sample ballot, all the taxpayers pay to produce a sample ballot that's sent to all the voters. You know, they won't even open up to the idea that if I come in to vote, that if I don't have photo ID, that I present my voter card that the taxpayers pay for, or a sample ballot to say, yes, I am who I am. And if I don't have any of that, I would still be issued a ballot, but I'd have to be able to produce one of those pieces of material before the absentees were counted. I mean, that's, you know, to me, that is just absolutely absurd. And I told somebody, I said, you know, the thing about it, if you like the idea or don't like the idea, just remember, if you go to the State House to watch the legislators debate on the issue and vote on the issue, take your photo ID, otherwise you can't get in. So you can't get in to watch them vote on it or debate it unless you take photo ID, because you can't get in to watch the legislature without photo ID. There.
I read an opinion of yours, I don't remember where it was, it might have been a letter to the editor, that listed photo ID, government ID, and I think you even went so far as to say bank statement.
Correct.
Would be acceptable. Is
That
still
would,
something of yours?
that would match the address of your voter card. In other words, Blaine Young, I'm registered at 3922 Millstone Circle, Monrovia, Maryland. If I took in a Potomac Edison bill to say I am who I am, here's my electric bill, it's got the same address as that, that should be at least a simple step that is acceptable. They've even rejected that. So what's that tell you?
Why is it rejected? Why, they say it's too much.
Because they throw up the same old argument, voter suppression. We're depriving someone of the ability to go vote without being intimidated. That's the argument that I will classify that the other side uses.
They don't fly much, do they?
Exactly. So, you know, we even put the provision, if you did go in there and you don't have a social security card, your board election card, your utility bill, anything. For some reason, somehow, I guess you rode your bike and you don't have a shred of evidence who you are. You can't even produce your bike registration or whatever it is. You have nothing. They would still give you a ballot. The only thing you'd have to do is by the time they count that ballot, you'd have to go to the board of elections and say, here's the information
Too much work, sorry.
provided. So, yes.
there are some people who believe that there is a group of very powerful people who control both parties, they control the big media, that their ultimate goal is to establish a world government with a world currency. They want to abolish national borders, abolish the nation state, abolish the U.S. Constitution, and that this is just a part of that. What do you think of that?
I think that there are some people that have that grandiose idea. I don't know if it's in both parties. At times, I tell you, I do think our president has that vision, but that's my personal opinion. So.
I agree with all that.
A lot of people do.
Well, it's true.
But you will never see that in the big media. They won't follow.
The media is completely controlled. I've seen the congressional records from the early part of the century where the bankers bought up all the